Well, imagine that. Another hockey puck trick. This is how you get these things out safely. These have to be repositioned because they're in the wrong place. The nice thing is you can actually take the top right off. These are the Tone Pro posts. Get that thing out of the way. Okay, now we get it good and tight. And lift that up. You can see there was a bit of damage from the last attempt. Bit of a gouge there. I don't know what happened there. So we'll start by filling those in. Get a overall depth on that first. 1.010. So of course we've got the bridge ground wire that needs to be pulled out before we do any more work on this. Of course that will be fed back in to the new hole after we drill it. Well, like a lot of guys, Ryan does a lot of his own work. He's got those orange drop capacitors he's put in. So we'll pull out that bridge wire, feed it back in once the new hole is cut. Push that out of the way for now. Okay. Now we'll get down to business. Now, it has been my experience, after doing this for years and years, in this particular job, lots of times, that I err on the side of caution. It's essentially 1 inch that you need. So I'm marking it, as you can see, with the pencil on the top, and we're going to cut it just a tiny bit shy. Then we're guaranteed to be able to have it flush with the finish. This dowel is a little bit too big. We want a perfect press fit, so here's how I'm going to make it fit. I have my sander on an air switch, foot switch. And just kind of rotate that. I'll check it against the guitar now. Let's get this squared up. Okay, that's looking good. So I'll work that down to the line. Okay, I'm liking that. While I've got raw wood, I'm going to just color that in. Looks like a pretty good match. Obviously it's going to be drilled out off center. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it'll be pretty close to invisible when we're done. Get our glue in there. You don't want to put too much. You don't want that dowel to get hung up. So I'm just wetting the wall. I use that rule to just press that into place. So use a larger diameter dowel just to tap that flush. Wipe off that glue now so we can have a good look. Just pull that pick guard off and get it out of the way. Excess glue. It's flush on the outside. This edge here is still a little proud. That's okay. This one's dead flush. So we always start by marking the theoretical distance first. So the theoretical distance on this one is 24 3/4. They must have been reading the Gibson catalog when they went to copy it, because it's actually 24 5/8, any Les Paul I've ever done. So we'll bring you in close and I'll just show you how I do this. The straight edge is tight to the nut. So this is our theoretical distance. This way we scribe a line all the way across. It's our theoretical distance. Good. So So we'll mark that line clearly. Of course, our actual distance is not there. We need to compensate. So our next move is to line up the string path on the 6th string. We've lined up the string path for the 6th string. So I'm just going to make a mark here on our theoretical line. There's our 1st string. I'm kind of lining it up with a pickup post as well. And again, I'm just marking that on the theoretical line. Okay. I'll explain this as best I can. The red line represents the theoretical string length. This line here, the black line, represents the amount of compensation you need to allow for the sharpening effect of the strings when you pull them tight to the frets. So on the treble side, you need 3 millimeters added to that theoretical length, and on the bass side you need 6 millimeters. The other thing that you need to keep in mind with this particular bridge, the cuff for the post is 1/4 inch diameter. So when I set that on there like so, I have a little bit of protrusion here for adjustment. This allows us to move this bridge forward slightly, and of course we've got lots of adjustment to move it back. Now those adjustments will be done once the strings are on, we've tuned it to concert pitch, and will determine the best placement for maximum accuracy. The other thing, it's a little bit of an illusion here, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up or not, but the crown of this bridge, it just looks like a regular tailpiece, but it's not. It's actually sculpted. These are for the 3 bass strings, and then it kind of dips back a little bit for the G string, and then moves forward for the E and the B string. So this is 439 thou. But this post will be drilled out a little bit larger to allow for a press fit with that ground wire. And the other hole will be slightly smaller. Now I do have these metal cuff stops, but I find a piece of masking tape works just as well. Now I have my drill press on a foot switch, so it turns the light on and the drill on at the same time. So here we go. Now because this is the side with the ground wire, while it's in place, I'm going to step it up to the slightly larger bit. Now we'll set up for the next hole. I have a leather pad from the old StringTech Elite that I use on the drill press. Okay, now we're in good shape. You can see how far off those original holes were. Holy smokes. Well, we won't be needing that hockey tape on there. Take that off. Just tap that home. Yeah, looking good. Okay, I've fed that ground wire for the bridge through, and we got a good solid press fit. Happy with that? This part of the job is taken care of. Rock solid. Very happy with that. We got lots of forgiveness in the adjustment to finalize that intonation once the strings are on. But right now, frets are coming out, new frets are going in. Okay, let's get these frets out. Yeah, there's a couple of reasons we're doing this refret. One, this fingerboard really swoops up on the end, and in order to correct it, if we took it out of the crown of the fret, there'd be no fret left. And I had that conversation with a customer. So we're going to correct the fingerboard once we get these frets out, and then put fresh new frets in, and he'll be in great shape. So this is the kit I keep referring to. We're about to use these blocks to level out that fingerboard for Ryan. And so they come with the sandpaper on them and a leather slip. There's 5 blocks in the kit, plus the leveling file that you see me use. The scrub block, and there are 5 aluminum straight edges. I also include 6 of these fret guards. So you cut those out for the 6 most common guitars you're going to be working on: SGs, Les Pauls, Tellys, Strats. And that is the kit that I've been sending out to my students. I've been making these up for years. I've had a bunch of my Patreon and YouTube subscribers order these. You can order them through mcconvilleguitars.blogspot.com. You'll see that on the bottom of your screen. So just taking a minute to refresh my own sanding blocks. There we go. Longest block. Okay, over to the guitar. So before we get started, I want to bring up a point that I made over and over again in my level 2 classes. When you go to level a fingerboard, you back that truss rod until there's nothing, and then you apply about 1/3 of a rotation. Now the reason you do that, we're about to level this fingerboard dead straight along the trajectory of the string path. Now there is a curvature on it, and we'll easily follow that with the blocks. But the point is, if you have a bit of load on that truss rod, and I'm not talking a lot, like 1/3 of a rotation, and then you shoot the fingerboard dead straight, that gives you absolute control over the lay of the neck for any gauge of string, any tuning. What I mean by that is this: even without string tension on the neck, if you back that truss rod off, you'll have a little bit of relief. So you'll always be able to adjust the neck dead straight or with a little bit of relief, no matter what string or what tuning the customer uses. So we're going to start up here because this has the proverbial sort of ski jump at that top end. This is the second smallest of the scrub blocks in the kit. So I'm concentrating on the treble area first, and I'll check it with straight edges as I go. I have never used an actual radius block for sanding. Here's why. Because this block, first of all, is narrower than the fingerboard, and that's exactly what I want. And it has a slip of leather underneath that jointed hardwood block, and it automatically flexes and follows whatever radius you happen to be sanding. I'm going to stop in a second and check this with a straight edge. Okay, let's have a look. So most of the trouble is right here at the end. I always keep a piece of chalk handy. I am going to use that smallest scrub block because this is the biggest area of contention right here. So with a small block, I can concentrate specifically on that area that is the root of the problem. I find that when I'm doing this work, it helps to actually count. I actually sand to an 8 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That gets me across the fingerboard. On the way back, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to check that again. Wow, that made a huge difference. And now we're going to start backing up the fingerboard towards the nut. Okay, again. That is looking great. So next, I'm going to the next longest block, and I can see that there's a little bit of a high spot here just before that first fret. So we're going to start here and work towards the top end of the fingerboard. The other thing about using these narrower blocks is that they automatically create a compound radius. So you want the radius to flatten a little bit towards the top end, and this is easily accomplished with these narrower blocks because you're never covering the whole fingerboard. You kind of make your way across. So I'm kind of shooting this fingerboard along the string path, and that's how I quickly create that desired conical radius. So the issue with a curved block is that you end up with a tubular radius, like the outside of a pipe. But with a narrower block, like I said, I create that much more desired conical radius or compound radius. Okay, now this is 80 grit, so I'm taking off a fair amount of material. I'm going to check that again with a straight edge. I am liking that. Got a very thin blade here to allow me to get right into that saw curve, because you also want to check as you go what the depth of those saw curves are, because obviously you need enough room to put a fret in there. And we're taking quite a bit off this top end. So make sure that we're leaving enough room to receive those new frets. Okay, we're just about there. Now I've got the longest block with 120 grit on it, so a little bit lighter. The other stuff was 80. And I'm going to go full length now and end to end. There's another point I wanted to make about when you reach the outside of the fingerboard. You have to be careful, and you've got to be careful with any block you're using, but these ones as well. You've got to be careful not to round over the outside edge. That outside edge should actually feel sharp to the touch when you're done. The reason for that is the underside of the crown needs to sit tightly against the wood. So if you round that off, you'll always feel an edge on the frets on the outside. So we want to make sure that we get that outside edge nice and tight. So these are the Vinehem pickups that Ryan put in. Great sounded pickups. It's all fully shielded Gibson braided wire. Yeah, wait till you hear this thing. Man, this was a long and winding road. There's your string spacing, and our Tone Pro bridge, wraparound bridge, is perfectly in tune for these 9 to 46 strings of concert pitch. And this is where we ended up with the compensated nut. Of course, we've got all brand new frets in there, and he's good for years to come. So I've recorded a thing in D major to let you hear this guitar and let you hear these pickups. So here we go.